Hi, I'm Tricia Bear from the Culinary Command Post, and today I'm going to show you how to make Snicker brownies. So the ingredients that's required to make Snicker brownies is 1 box of your Supreme Triple Chunk Brownie Mix, which on that you'll also need 1/4 cup of water, 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, and 1 egg. We're going to mix up that first, and then we're going to put this in the oven and let it cook at 325 degrees. And we're going to let it cook for about 20 minutes because we're going to have layers. So we're going to have a brownie layer, which is the box brownies, and then we're going to second layer, which is 2 tablespoons of evaporated milk with 1 package of the caramels, however you say it, and then we melted that in the microwave, so that's going to be layer number 2. And then once the cake has cooled and we put the caramel and the evaporated milk melted together, then we're going to add in the peanuts, and that's going to be our second layer. And then our third layer is going to be some type of nougat mixture that we're going to cook on the stove with 1 1/4 cup of sugar, 2/3 cup of evaporated milk, 1/4 cup of butter, and that's what we're going to actually cook on the stove. And we're going to try to get that to 240-degree temperature. So if you don't have a candy thermometer, you need to get one, because you're going to need to temp check that mixture on the stove to make sure it's the correct consistency so it gets done properly. And then our last layer is going to be our melted chocolate chips, and it's two cups, or actually it's 4 cups, which is 16 ounces. So actually it's 2 cups is what it is. So it's 16 ounces of melted chocolate chip, and the 1/4 cup of butter, and then the heavy cream. And that's going to be our last layer. And then we're going to chop up the Snickers, which you've already done, and we're going to put that on top of it as the very top layer. Okay, so first we're going to start with our, and this one's Betty Crocker Supreme Triple Chunk Brownie Mix. So we're going to start with that, and we're just making 1 box of it. So you need the box, and then you need the 1 egg. If you do happen to get a KitchenAid stand mixer, or any stand mixer, you want to get the attachment that's on the front, because it comes in handy when you're trying to dice up vegetables, make homemade pasta, or grate cheese. I use it all the time. I grate block cheese in about 1 minute. Okay, so that's the powder, which is the brownie mix. Now we're going to put in 1 egg, it's a whole egg. Put that in, and then we're going to add in 1/4 cup of water, and then 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. And that's how you make the Supreme Triple Chunk Brownie Mix. We're going to mix that on low. And you can stop your mixer halfway through and make sure you scrape down the sides of the bowl to get all the powder in. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and spray our pan. So it's a 9 by 13 square pan that we're going to use. Okay, so I sprayed our 9 by 13 pan and I'm just spreading it out evenly with a paper towel. You can use aluminum foil since I'm using the spray pan. This one's got flour in it. It's called Baker's Joy. That's the one I like the best. So I'm going to use it, and I'm not going to put aluminum foil in that. So. And I always scrape the very bottom just to make sure that there's nothing in the bottom. Some makers leave powder in the bottom. We don't want that. Okay, so we're going to pour it into our baking dish, and I've got the oven preset. The recipe says 350 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and set it for 325 just because that's what the box says. So different types of brownies have different temperatures. So this is going to be the bottom layer, so it's not going to be too thick because we have 3 other layers that's going to go with it. This is called the Snickers Bar Brownie. Okay, so we're going to spread it out in the pan. I'm going to reduce my temperature to 325. The recipe calls for 350, but the box says 325, so we're going to go with what the box has. And it's going to make a thin layer of brownie on the bottom. I'm going to shake it side to side to get it to even out a little. Okay. It's got a little bit in the corners we've got to fill in here. Okay, so we're going to put that in the oven for about 20 minutes. Set our timer for 20 minutes. Alright, so while that's baking in the oven for 20 minutes, we melted our bag of caramels. In addition to that, we put 2 tablespoons of evaporated milk in it, and we did it at 20-second increments because you don't want to burn your caramel. And then once it gets melted in the microwave, I think I had to do it 3 times to get it melted where I could stir it. Then we're going to add in our peanuts, which is 1 cup of peanuts. Now before I add those in, I'm going to actually put them in the oven for just a couple minutes, just to bring out the flavor of the peanuts. Or if you don't want to put them in the oven, you can just put them in the caramel. So we're just going to put them in the caramel instead. So I've already melted the evaporated milk in the bag of caramel squares. And then you're going to mix it up in the bowl. And you could put the peanuts in and go ahead and toast the peanuts in the microwave, which is what we're going to end up doing. Because as you melt it, it's going to solidify while the cake's baking. So if you do it too soon, then you're going to have to put it in the microwave to let it melt a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. So I've got the peanuts, the 2 tablespoons of evaporated milk, and the bag of caramel squares. This is going to be our second layer. All right. Okay, and then our third layer is where we're going to cook this 1 1/4 cups of sugar, a 1/3 cup of butter, and then 2/3 cup of evaporated milk. And we're going to put them on the stove, so we're going to move over there to the stove. Okay, and the butter is softened at room temperature. It's going to melt regardless, but it makes it easier if it's already at room temperature. And then we're going to add our 1 1/4 cup of sugar and our 1/3 cup of butter, and then the evaporated milk, which is right here, and that's the 2/3 cup. That's the remaining. So you have 2 different measurements of your evaporated milk. Got sugar and then 2/3 cup of the evaporated milk, and that's going to be the third layer actually. And I've got a candy thermometer that hooks onto the side of the pan, so I can tell when it reaches 240 degrees, because that's what temperature I need this to be before it's done. So I'm going to put it on low. And this is going to be like a nougat layer, is what we're doing now. Let's go ahead and mix the sugar up with the evaporated milk and then the 1/3 cup of softened butter. Once we get it to 240 degrees, then we're going to take it off of the stove, and then we're going to add in the marshmallow cream and the peanut butter. Okay, so we're going to turn on our thermometer. Make sure it's on Fahrenheit, because that's the temperature you need, is 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's how you measure how to cook like fudge or other kinds of candy properly, is with that thermometer. hopefully around Christmas time, I'm going to show you all how to make truffles and candy, your homemade candy, chocolate candies, different kinds. Okay, so that's melting. I've got it on medium heat. Now once it starts to bubble, then I'm going to turn it down to low heat and simmer it for 5 minutes. Alright, we're waiting for that to bubble so we can turn it on simmer. We're going to go ahead and look at our other layer. And that's where we're going to melt the chocolate chips. And we've got 16 ounces of chocolate chips. And then we have a heavy cream, which is the 1/4 cup of heavy cream, 16 ounces of chocolate chips, and then 1/4 cup of butter. And we're going to go ahead and wait to melt this until the cake gets done, and I add on the second layer, which is the caramel with the peanuts and the evaporated milk. And then we're going to add on the third layer, which we're cooking on the stove, which is the nougats. And then at the end, I've crumbled up about 10 of the miniature Snickers bars, and we're going to put those on top after we get everything done. What this chocolate layer does is it makes what they call a ganache, which is basically the butter, the heavy cream, and the chocolate chips. So that's what makes ganache. That's all it is. And that it makes a really good icing too, if you want to just use it as an icing. And then this is the marshmallow cream and peanut butter. So whenever the nougat gets done on the stove when it's 240 degrees, then we're going to add these two in with it. So we've got a 1/4 cup of creamy peanut butter and then a 7-ounce jar of the marshmallow cream that we're going to add to the nougat on the stove. Okay, so I've got my temperature to 240 on my nougat mixture for our Snickers Bar Brownies. So now I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of creamy peanut butter and then 1 jar of the Jet Puffed marshmallow cream, the entire jar, 7 ounces. This is going to be our third layer to our brownie, Snickers Bar Brownies. I'm going to take it off the heat. For a second. Kind of sticky. Alright. Alright, so we're going to stir in our marshmallow cream and our 1/4 cup of peanut butter. This over a little bit. Makes like a creamy peanut butter layer. I'm going to try to whisk it in and see if that, yeah, whisk works better when you're trying to mix it up on this. and it's just got a creamy marshmallow layer to it with peanut butter. Okay, and our cake is still in the oven, so we're gonna actually check it in a second, because every oven's different. So if it says 20 minutes, that don't mean it's 20 minutes in your oven, so make sure you check it. And then we're gonna use a toothpick also to check it. Just had somewhere. Set it right there. Alright, so we're taking our brownies out of the oven just for a minute, and I'm going to check it and make sure that it's done. And you can use a toothpick if you want, or a fork. I'm going to use a toothpick. Just make sure that the toothpick comes out clean. See, it's not wet at all. And it's a thin layer on the bottom, so it should be okay. Alright, so our brownies are done. Turn off. Cancel off. Alright, turn our oven off. Now we're going to move our brownies over to the counter. Alright. So we got our caramel, evaporated milk and peanuts over here that we melted in the microwave. Then we have our marshmallow cream and peanut butter nougat layer that we're going to have. And then our last layer is going to be our chocolate chips. So I'm going to go ahead and melt those in the microwave for about 20 seconds at a time and stir them in between the 20 seconds. Let me do that. Okay. So now we're melting our chocolate chips, the remaining 1/3 cup butter, and some heavy cream in the microwave at 20-second intervals until it melts. And that's going to be our last layer. And then we're going to put our Snicker bar, which I put in the Ninja this morning and chopped them up. I'm going to use this. Okay, I'm going to put it back in for 20 more seconds. Okay, this may be enough as far as melting. We're going to see. And This is what they call a ganache in chef school. Basically a little butter, semi-sweet chocolate chips or milk chocolate chips, whichever one you want to use. And the butter. And heavy cream. Still have a little bit of chips in there that haven't quite melted. I'm going to do it one more time to make sure my chips are melted in there. Okay. Alright, that should do it. Now while I'm waiting for my cake to cool just a little bit longer, I'm going to go ahead and microwave the caramel with the peanuts in it and the heavy cream, the 2 tablespoons of heavy cream that I did earlier. Now on this type of pan, it's 9 by 13. You could probably get away with adding a bag and a half of caramel, just because it's going to be a thin layer here. So you might add, I'd add another bag and a half just because it's kind of thin. Okay, now it's asking us to put it in the freezer. Well, you're supposed to freeze the first 2 layers while you're preparing the nougat layer. So I'm thinking about putting it in the freezer for just about 10 minutes. And then we'll add the nougat layer on top of it. Okay, so now we've just taken our brownies with our peanut and caramel layer out of the freezer. I put them in there for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to add the nougat layer to it. Grab a spoon. It's a little bit more solid than I'd like, but we had to wait to get the brownies frozen a little bit in the freezer, so we're going to try that real fast. Okay, so now we got our nougat layer that we've cooked on the stove. And it's the one that's got the peanut butter, the marshmallow cream in it. Looks sort of like peanut butter, but it's a lighter version. We're going to put this as our 3rd layer. So we got the brownie base, the peanut base with the caramel, and then we're going to add the peanut butter and marshmallow cream base. We cooked on the stove, and we got it to 240 degrees, and then we let it simmer for 5 minutes. Rest of that out of there. And then we're going to add our chocolate ganache last, and then sprinkle our Snicker bars that we chopped up on top. Okay. Alright, so we're going to spread this out very gently without messing up the other layer, because it was freezing in the freezer for 10 minutes, so it's staying more intact that way, so it doesn't mix the layers. Turn this off. Alright, sorry. Okay, while I'm mixing this nougat layer or putting it on top the brownies, I'm going to go ahead and heat the ganache up one more time for 20 seconds in the microwave, so it's easier to spread that way. Okay. Alright, so here's the nougat layer that we made on the stove with marshmallow cream and peanut butter. Gotta be very gentle with spreading it out so it doesn't take up your peanut butter layer. Not your peanut butter, but your peanuts and your caramel layer. Alright, hang on. The VA does have a healthy cooking class coming up July 31st, and you can attend it online. I think you have to get a consult to the MOVE program, which is like a diet program for the VA, in order to attend that class online. Now they do have in-person classes also, but they also have the online class July 31st. So if you're interested, check with your VA primary care manager and have them do a consult to the MOVE program so that you can sign up for these healthy nutrition classes, which I'm going to teach some of those classes that I learned on this channel. Alright, I'm just getting it smooth as I can and level. And then I'm going to add the chocolate ganache, which is the heavy cream, 16 ounces of chocolate chip, and then they're milk chocolate chips. You can use milk chocolate or semi-sweet, whichever one you prefer. I don't like dark chocolate, so I'm going to use one of those two. Alright. Alright, here's our ganache chocolate layer. And it's starting to thicken up a little, so we want to go ahead and get it put on there. And then we're going to put them in the freezer and let them solidify for another 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to use this, actually I'm going to use this to spread them out. Spread out the chocolate on top of the marshmallow cream and peanut butter mixture. We'll let it freeze for maybe another 10 minutes and then it should be ready to serve. Do it very gentle so you don't mix up the third layer into the fourth layer. Okay, so we're almost ready for our Snicker bars to be put on top. Making sure it's level. Just like so. Okay, got all of our ganache chocolate mixture on, and now I'm going to sprinkle our chopped up Snicker bars. It's about 15 small Snicker bars that I chopped up, and the Ninja chopper. Alright, you just want to spread it all around on top of the ganache, which is the chocolate mixture. And the ganache actually makes a good, just a good icing on anything, really. just kind of crumble on it in my hand. And I'm going to press it down a little bit so it stays on top of the brownie and not falls off. Alright, so I'm going to gently pat it down, make sure I got Snickers on every area, and just gently press it down so when it freezes, it'll freeze to the brownie. Just like that. And we'll let it freeze probably another 30 minutes, and then it'll be ready to serve. And we'll taste it and check it. Just working the sides out. Okay, we're going to stick it in the freezer.
Yeah. So this is like